Hi, and welcome back to Joe's DIY. Back with another episode. Today we're going to be going over my 1970s albums, and we're going to be doing from the letter L all the way up to the letter S, or at least the beginning of the letter S. We're going to see a couple of heavy hitters here, so I hope that you're ready for this episode. I'm excited, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So this band actually released their first album in the 60s, but most of their discography that people really know happened in the 70s. And that band is Led Zeppelin. And here I got Led Zeppelin II. So to many hard rock fans and many rock fans, I mean, this album is a classic, and there's not much I can add to what everyone knows about this album. I will mention some of the songs that I really enjoy here. Let me go ahead and just open this up. And this album, I did cheat a little bit, and I did get it off eBay, so I didn't find it at Goodwill. Led Zeppelin 1, I did find it at Goodwill. Here's the inside of the actual album, so you can see right there. And obviously, Hold All Love was the big hit, but there's many other songs here. Heartbreaker, Ramble On, Moby Dick, the Lemon Song, Thank You. So a lot of great songs here. I could see why this album donned heavy metal, because it's just a heavy album, heavy guitar. Robert Plant's vocals are amazing, and this is definitely a classic. So Led Zeppelin 2. Next up is Led Zeppelin 4, and no, I do not own Led Zeppelin 3. Not because I have any bias against that album. It's just that I have not come across that at a Goodwill. This album, I did cheat as well. I did not find this at a Goodwill, but I did get a good price on it on eBay, so I decided to purchase it. And this is Led Zeppelin 4. Here's a good look at the inside cover. It's got all that iconography that Jimmy Page likes to use. I know that other people have different names for this album, but once you see the picture on that album, picture within the picture, you definitely know that this is Led Zeppelin 4. And obviously some great songs here. Let me go ahead and pull up the sleeve here. So obviously Black Dog, the first track on the album is amazing. Rock and Roll, love that Jimi Hendrix for that time it was kind of like an old school riff that he was doing, or lick. Stairway to Heaven obviously is legendary. Misty Mountain Hop, Going to California, When the Levee Breaks. So amazing album, and Led Zeppelin 4. And up next is Houses of the Holy, and unfortunately I'm going to pass on showing you this album just because I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. If you're curious about what the album cover looks like, go ahead and look it up on the internet. But I'm gonna go ahead and just abstain from showing it to everyone here, and I will go over some of the songs that I really enjoy. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So on side one, The Song Remains the Same. That's a big song from the movie, actually, of the same name. The Song Remains the Same. The Rain Song, obviously a really cool song. Over the Hills and Far Away. Dancing Days, No Quarter. Jamaica, The Ocean, really has that cool little guitar lick. So really incredible music here. Found this at a Goodwill amazingly, and snatched it right up. And it has a few hairlines, but it still plays really well. So I'm glad that I was able to get it. So Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. Up next is Led Zeppelin Presence. And this is an album that usually is not held as in high regard as the other albums, but I still think it's a great album, especially the first track. The first track is, I forget the name of the song, but I always remember that it's really good. Yeah, Achilles' Last Stand. So it's an amazing song. And obviously the whole thing about the object, which is this little sculpture here that's in every picture that you see in the album. So the object is there, and it's also shown in, you open up the gatefold, there's other objects in every picture that you see there. So not sure what the object means. It has something. I guess it has something to do with you seeing it in every picture. I'm not exactly sure, but definitely a cool idea, I guess. Kind of innovative, kind of artistic. Other songs that I really enjoyed from this album. Let me see. For Your Life, Nobody's Fault But Mine, Hot's On for Nowhere, T for One. So great album here by Led Zeppelin. Next up is an album that is usually when people rank these as near the bottom, and that is In Through the Outdoor by Led Zeppelin. So this originally was supposed to come into some kind of paper bag type of cover on the actual record, but I found this at a Goodwill, so obviously it's, the paper cover is long gone. This one does not has a gatefold. Don't know much of the songs here. I do know, let me see. So I do know All of My Love. That's kind of like the big hit from this album. But the other ones I really haven't had a chance to listen to this album by Led Zeppelin. So probably should give it another try. I mean, it is part of the discography. So, and I am a fan of the band. So, all right. So next up is another big album from the '70s, and that is Lynyrd Skynyrd's debut album. I like how they even made people know the pronunciation of the band, pronounce Lynyrd Skynyrd. Some great hits here. Tuesday's Gone is kind of like the big one, and I always remember that song from the movie Dazed and Confused. It's kind of a good wrapping up the night kind of song that you play. I guess my favorite song from this whole album is Simple Man. Still really, it's a song that I really connect. I think Ronnie Van Zant was at his peak here as far as lyrics. It's just, I connect with this song very, very well, Simple Man. And then obviously you got Freebird, and that's kind of like the big hit here. So definitely a quintessential 70s album that mostly everyone, I think, has in their collection. So Lynyrd Skynyrd. Next up is Lynyrd Skynyrd, Nothing Fancy. Okay, and then let me see. I don't think this is a gatefold. A decent album. I think I've only heard it once, so I really don't know the songs very well. Let me see. Definitely know Saturday Night Special, Whiskey Rock-a-Roller. So it sounds a little bit familiar. I think I've only listened to this album once or twice. So, but there's a good picture of the band there, and then the backside shows a good picture of the band too. Next up is I think I laughed when I saw the title of this, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Give Me Back My Bullets. So yeah, that's a good picture of the band there. I think I haven't heard this album yet. I have not had a chance to listen to this, so I'm not very familiar with any of the songs here. I'm trying to see if there's one that I remember, and no. So probably on my to-do list to listen to this, but love the title. Gotta check it out. Next up is a pretty interesting, I would call them a set of albums by Lynyrd Skynyrd. And both of them found at a Goodwill, amazingly. And that is Soul Survivors, or Street Survivors, sorry. Street Survivors. Okay, so obviously one of the albums was from the first pressing, and the reason for that is because the album was actually re-released with this picture instead of this picture after the Lynyrd Skynyrd accident happened back in '77, where some of the band members passed away. So they thought that this actually looked a little bit too morbid and inappropriate, so they re-released the album without the flames, and they just had a picture of the band. So this copy obviously is a little bit more rare. So I got very lucky in that I found this, but unfortunately the record was really in really bad shape, really scratched up. So this copy is actually the one that I listened to, but I've kept them both together because obviously this cover is very rare, even though it's not in the best condition, but it's still a rare copy. And then some of the songs that I like here, That Smell obviously is a pretty big hit for them. Ain't No Good Life, I Know a Little, I Never Dreamed, What's Your Name, a pretty big hit too. So, Street Survivors by Leonard Skinner. Next up is a live album by Leonard Skinner called One More from the Road, with 4 crossed out and from put in its place. So I unfortunately have not had a chance to listen to this, but I can see that it's got a lot of the big hits here. I Ain't the One, Tuesday's Gone, Saturday Night Special, Whiskey, Rock-a-Roller, Sweet Home Alabama, Give Me 3 Steps, Crossroads, Freebird, and then let me see, it's a gatefold, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the inside of the album there. And I think this was released after the plane crash. I'm not sure, because it does say 76 here, so I'm not sure if this is the same year. If it was released after or before the plane crash. Trying to read the liner notes here. The liner notes were actually written by Cameron Crowe here, that I'm barely noticing. Yeah, it doesn't really mention whether or not this was released after they passed away. I'm sure the information is on Google, so if you want to look that up and put it in the comments, let me know. But One More from the Road. Next up is kind of a classic album, for at least for me. And I know that in the Latino community in the 70s, it was probably a big deal. But it was a big deal for me because I always listened to this album when I was a kid. And that is Malo, the first album. So the music is kind of similar to the ones from Santana, and I'm going to go into Santana in a little bit because I have quite a few albums from the band Santana. But it's basically rock and roll mixed in with kind of salsa, music, and the mix actually mixes pretty well because I mean it's music that you can actually dance to as well as rock out to, which is I think unique. But this album, I was fortunate enough to also find it at a Goodwill, and it was in decent condition. A little bit wrecked here from the bottom, but the vinyl actually plays well. And there's a picture. This is kind of like an iconic picture you'll find in many murals in downtown LA sometimes, or some certain parts of LA, like maybe East LA. But it's basically, I'm not sure who it is, but someone painted it. But it's a great album. I think it's their best album. I mean, I've heard a couple of their other songs, and I think this was actually the best album that they made for my taste. Some of the great songs here are Pana, and then you got Nena, Suavecito is kind of like the one that's really well known. Just Say Goodbye, and then Cafe. So a lot of great songs here. Some of the tracks are a little bit long. I mean, you're talking about between 6 to 9 minute tracks. So the songs are long. That's why I think there's only, let me see, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 songs on side 1 and 1, 2, 3 songs on side 2. So this album, the tracks are pretty long, but it's a great album. Really enjoy it. Listen to it all the time. I have to say that's probably one of my favorite albums in the last 4 or 5 years. So listen to this quite a bit. Next up is a solo album from an artist from a big band, and that is Mick Taylor. And I don't know the name of I think it's just self-titled. Yeah, Mick Taylor. So a lot of people over the years have praised the guitar work on this record, and unfortunately I've not had a chance to listen to it. But I do love that era of Rolling Stones with Mick Taylor on lead, and was a little bit excited to see that he released a solo record because I wanted to hear him in his guitar playing. So unfortunately, I have not had a chance to listen to this, but I will as soon as I get a chance. Next up is an album that I got on a hunch, Mott the Hoople. Yeah. Not sure if this is the greatest hits. It might be. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the band, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if it is or it isn't. as someone actually did a little bit of a little beard and mustache on some of the band members. I've heard that this band is quite influential to a lot of other artists. Uh, I've never really listened to their music because I think it's too English, and I mean, I know a lot of British bands, but I'm not really into the kind of like the cult following type of bands. And I would probably say that they're those bands that actually do have that cult following. So um, I definitely can't wait to give this a listen to and see if I like the music. Next up is The Best of Mountain. Quite excited to get this album because it's got Mountain's other songs. I mean, I know I've heard Mississippi Queen over the years, and I have not had a chance to listen to this because I just got it a couple of days ago as well. So I'm gonna definitely give first chance I get. I'm gonna pop this and listen to it and see if I like any of the songs. Here's a good picture of the gatefold with pictures of the band. So yeah, The Best of Mountain. Next up is a pretty well-known album from one of those bands that are kind of like, I guess they would be in the category of progressive rock, and that would be The Mothers, and the album is Overnight Sensation. So the album's called Overnight Sensation. These albums are kind of hard to name because sometimes you can't. I think the name of the album is somewhere in there, and usually they're easier to see. But yeah, Zappa and the Mothers. So this is, I mean, I guess it would be considered a concept album, I guess. And I mean, I could see there's some comedy in some of these albums, along with great, guitar playing, great, instrumentation and stuff like that. I think I've only listened to this album once, and I quite enjoyed it. I think some parts of it were kind of funny. And let me see. I'll open up the gatefold so you can see the inside. But that's what's inside the gatefold. And then the album is just kind of one giant mural, as you can see right there. So, but yeah, this is supposed to be the Mother's kind of a popular album, I guess. Next up is Frank Zappa, Waka Jawawa. Waka Jawaka. Yeah, there you go. I think I said it right. Have not heard this album yet. And I've noticed that his album covers are kind of, cartoonish. Some of them are kind of comical, actually. But I have not had a chance to listen to this. There's a picture there of Zappa. And this is not a gatefold, so I won't be opening that up. But yeah, Waka Jawaka. Waka Jawaka. There you go. I think I said it right the third time. All right, next up is The Grand Wazoo. And I think this is another... Okay, I'm not sure if this is Zappa or the Mothers, but yeah, I guess I put them all together. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and... It's a gatefold, so I'm going to go ahead and open up so you can see like the whole thing, which I find kind of interesting there. And this is another album that I did not get a chance to listen to yet, but I picked it up as soon as I could. And there's the inside of it. So yeah, I definitely have a lot to listen to in my to-do list, but when I see the albums and I see potential there, I usually pick them up because they're not too expensive. So there you go. Next up is another artist from the 70s that had a pretty well-known album, and that's Neil Young, Harvest. And definitely enjoy some of the music here. I mean, I like Heart of Gold. That's kind of a well-known album. Old Man. The Needle and the Damage Done. Harvest. So yeah, I mean, this is, I think, the only Neil Young album that I own. And it's a pretty famous album, so I decided to pick it up. And I mean, the music was okay. I mean, I would say that Neil Young's voice is a bit of an acquired taste. So yeah. Anyways, and then I got a couple of albums by the Ohio Players. So the first album is Honey, and this is a pretty good album. I'm not gonna show the whole thing because, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna show. So I think everyone's well aware of the mythology behind this album cover. There was a couple of years ago, I think there was a documentary out talking about the urban legend that this woman was, offed by the band's manager because she ruined a recording, and there was an urban legend that had happened, and more than likely that's not at all the case. But I think the band members kind of did their part to kind of keep that urban legend going. So that's kind of like the interesting story about this album. But the songs here are great. You got Roller Coaster, Love Roller Coaster. That's kind of a well-known song that I think even the Red Hot Chili Peppers covered that. So Honey, it's a great song there. Let's Love, Sweet Sticky Thing. That's kind of like another big hit from this album. So yeah, Honey by the Ohio Players. Next up is Skin Tight, and I'm glad that I could probably still get away with showing this. But yeah, and obviously the song Skin Tight is pretty good. Jive Turkey, Heaven Must Be Like This, another good, well-known song by the Ohio Players. So yeah, the Ohio Players. And next up is probably one of the most famous live albums from the 1970s, and that would be Frampton Comes Alive. I actually have several copies of this album, so I should probably have the better condition album cover in here. But this is the first copy that I ever bought when I started collecting records. And this was found at a Goodwill. And as you all know, this is the gatefold. So it's kind of like a poster size picture of Frampton on the cover. And here's the inside of the gatefold, as you can see right there. So what can I say about this album? I mean, I think this is probably one of the best live albums released in the 70s. I mean, from beginning to end, all the songs are great. You really don't skip any of these tracks, really. I mean, this is the type of live album that you listen from beginning to end. Obviously, Show Me the Way was a big hit. And then you also got Baby I Love Your Way, Shine On, and then you got Do You Feel Like We Do. It's a double album. You can listen to this from beginning to end and really just enjoy the atmosphere of that time. And yeah, I mean, Frampton's on top of the world at that moment, so great album to listen to. Next up is the follow-up album, Peter Frampton, I'm in You. Suggestive title, if I might say. It was funny when I bought this record. I did find it at a Goodwill. The girl just gave me a funny look because she thought that the album cover was hilarious. I'm pretty sure Peter Frampton himself thinks that the cover is hilarious looking because he's kind of looking more like a teen idol and less than a rock star here. But I've listened to a few of these tracks. I have to be honest, I have not listened to the whole album. I'm in You I guess it was a hit. Yeah. I mean, I know the song I'm a Roadrunner, but I haven't listened to this version of it, so yeah. Probably should give this album a chance, but there's the back of it. And yeah, Peter Frampton, I'm in You. Next up is an album that I own, but I probably will never really listen to because I guess it would be sort of sacrilege to listen to this. And that is the 1978 soundtrack of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So back in the 70s, Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees decided that they were going to make a movie about the Beatles and that they were going to be Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's hard to believe that anyone would, in their right mind, would do this, but the Bee Gees at the time were pretty big. Frampton was pretty big, so they went for it, and it was not a success. And obviously, a lot of the songs from the from Sgt. Pepper's are here, but there's also a lot of covers of other Beatles songs. Come Together's in here, and that's actually that's Aerosmith. Aerosmith plays Come Together, so that actually makes sense because I remember them covering that earlier. Obviously, Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees cover Sgt. Pepper Lonely Heart Club Band, The Reprise, and the song. The Bee Gees, sorry, are sing Carry That Weight. Peter Frampton sings Golden Slumbers. So, I guess other than the Aerosmith cover of Come Together, I probably would never catch myself ever listen to this album. Just because it's kind of a crazy idea, and it's kind of, I'd rather listen to the real thing. So, but Aerosmith covering the Come Together is actually pretty good. I think I've listened to that before. I think in one of their greatest hits CDs. So yeah, Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band. Oh wait, I actually didn't show the gatefold because you have to believe it. So there it is. So yeah, I think they were very remorseful about trying to do this. So next up is a pretty big album, and it's the only album that I own by this band, unfortunately, and that's Queen, A Night at the Opera. Pretty big album for the band, probably in the top 5 best Queen albums. This was the one that has Bohemian Rhapsody, You're My Best Friend. That's another big song. God Save the Queen, Line on Sunday Afternoon, Death on Two Legs. So yeah, a lot of great songs here from Queen's A Night at the Opera. And this is the gatefold, so I guess I could show you the inside. Unfortunately, this record was a little bit water damaged, so, but I think the vinyl's in decent condition. Next up is Rod Stewart's first solo album, Every Picture Tells a Story. And obviously the big hit here was Maggie May. So I do like Every Picture Tells a Story. That's Alright Mama, Reason to Believe, Maggie May. I Know I'm Losing You. That's a cover by, I believe, The Temptations, or a cover from the Temptations song. So, yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorite Rod Stewart albums. I think there's a couple more that I'd like to eventually get. But I do have the greatest hits. And I think this one even has Do You Think I'm Sexy? So, so yeah. I mean, I love Rod Stewart's voice. I know that some of the songs here are goofy, but, you know, I do enjoy his singing. So that's why I do time to time hear this album. So, Rod Stewart Greatest Hits. Next up is another band that I didn't know they had so many good songs, and when I found out about them, I jumped on the opportunity of getting their greatest hits. So, Rolls Royce Greatest Hits. So, lots of good songs here. Car Wash, I Want to Get Next to You, Wishing on a Star, Oh Boy. Yeah, a lot of great songs here. So, is this a gatefold? No, it's not a gatefold. So that is the front. This is the back of the album. So, great 70s, I guess you can call it soul or funk or something like that. Something in between. But they have great music. I mean, it's fun music. You know, I really enjoy listening to it from time to time. So, Rolls Royce Greatest Hits. Next up is I would say this is my favorite live album from the 70s. And we're back with the Rolling Stones. Get Your Yayas Out. I mean, this album, I've listened to this hundreds of times, literally. Just the energy and the Stones at that particular time in the 70s, I think that was their peak. And they put on a great performance here. And I just don't think that they ever sounded like this in any other live album they ever did. So really enjoyed this album. I mean, I could probably listen to this front cover to cover or track to track from beginning to end, and I'm not going to skip on a single track here. I think my favorite song from this album's got to be Stray Cat Blues, because I think this is the definitive version of Stray Cat Blues. I prefer the live version better than the one on Let It Bleed. So yeah, probably my favorite live album from the 70s. Get Your Yayas Out by the Rolling Stones. Next up is probably one of those albums that I always keep at the front of my pile, just because I don't want it to get damaged. And it's probably one of the great albums of the 70s, and that is the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers. And yes, this does have the zipper on there that actually zips up and down. The reason why you don't want to put this at the bottom of a pile of any vinyl is because this zipper will push into the plastic in the vinyl and will probably dent it or damage it. So I always keep this album at the front of any pile of albums that I keep on my shelf. So yeah, this record always stands in the front like this. That way that zipper doesn't sink into the vinyl and damage it. But this is a great album. I mean, to me, it's probably the best Rolling Stones album that's ever been made. This would be my number one album, my favorite Rolling Stones album. Brown Sugar, Sway, Wild Horses, Can You Hear Me Knocking? I mean, to me, that's actually like my second favorite song from the entire album. I mean, that long solo, and you got the saxophone solo. It's just great. And then I think it's who's it? Yeah, Bobby Keys. Bobby Keys' saxophone solo is amazing on Can You Hear Me Knocking. You got Sister Morphine, Dead Flowers, Moonlight Mile. I mean, track to track, this is probably the best album the Rolling Stones ever did. This was definitely their peak. So I enjoyed this album very much, and I listened to it. I've listened to probably another hundreds of times. So I love it. Next up is another classic by the Stones, and some people would put this as their number one Rolling Stones album. I would probably put this somewhere between my second and third favorite Rolling Stones album, and that would be Exile on Main Street. Quite an iconic cover here, and here's a good look at the inside of the. Well, I'll show you both. I'll show you the gatefold, the outside parts of the cover. I actually have a poster in my garage with the entire thing just like this, showing the entire poster. And this is the inside of the gatefold. So yeah, a great album. I usually listen to this from beginning to end as well. Rip This Joint, Tumbling Dice. I think that's probably my favorite song from this album. Sweet Virginia, Torn and Frayed. Happy, another great song. I Just Want to See His Face. Let It Loose. Stop Breaking Down, Shine a Light, Soul Survivor. So great album. It's probably my second or third favorite Rolling Stones album, Exile on Main Street. Next up is another album from the 70s run of the Rolling Stones. I think this was probably I would say it's probably one of their last great albums from that era, and that is Some Girls. A lot of good tracks here. Miss You, Some Girls, Beast of Burden. I think probably Beast of Burden is probably my favorite song from the album. Imagination, good cover. Respectable, Shattered. So a lot of good songs here from this album. And the original one had, I think, Lucille Ball in one of these pictures of these women here. Let me see if I can pull up the cover. Yeah, so it had Lucille Ball in this, but I guess the band got sued, or the record company got sued, so they had to remove Lucille Ball. So some of the first pressings will have the Lucille Ball there, but this one just has, I think it's one of those cutout ones where you can, you know, remove it and put, see if I can do this without wrecking the album. And then you can also do this. So I usually keep it the other way. So this is probably one of the last great albums that the Stones did from that era. Even though they did have Ron Wood in the band now and Mick Taylor had already left. But I think this was a pretty good, I mean, you could say comeback album because the other last albums weren't as good. But yeah, great album by the Stones. Next up is an album I recently just found. And I guess it would be kind of like a greatest hits, but just from the 70s by the Stones. And it's called Rolling Stones Sucking in the 70s. So it's got a lot of the big hits from that era. Shattered, Everything's Turning to Gold, Hot Stuff, Fool to Cry, Manish Boy, Beast of Burden. So yeah, I think it's kind of like one of those 70s, late 70s greatest hits albums. Yeah, by the Stones. All right, next up is an album that I think it's probably ranked as the #1 album for this particular artist, and that is Rory Gallagher, Tattoo. I've heard a lot about Rory Gallagher, but unfortunately I have not listened to this album yet. But I know that he's probably one of the great guitarists of that era as well. So there's a good look. It's not a gatefold, so I'll just show the front and I'll show the back. I really like this cover art. It's kind of cool. My dad actually has a tattoo that has these birds, or this style of birds, and also this little ribbon here. So I think that's kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of my dad. But yeah, Rory Gallagher, Tattoo. Next up is a pretty influential band. And fortunately for me, I got several of their albums from the 70s. Let's start off with the debut, Rush. So this is before they got Neil Peart in the band. And Working Man is probably the big hit. I have to be honest, I've only listened to this album maybe once or twice, so I don't know a lot of the songs here. There's a good picture of the back of the album for the band. And this was miraculously picked up at a Goodwill. As a matter of fact, all these albums I'm going to show you were picked up at a Goodwill amazingly. And this is in very good condition. Next up, A Farewell to Kings, another great album by Rush. Obviously, it's got the big hit, Closer to the Heart. Well known. And all the songs here are pretty good. Hard Walking. Let me see if I can show you the inside. So there's a good picture of the band there. And the lyrics. And there's the back. So I think I've only listened to this from beginning to end once, so I definitely need to do that again. So yeah, Farewell to Kings. Next up is Hemispheres, and unfortunately I'm not going to show the cover of this album because it has someone's backside on it, and I guess, again, I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. So if you want to look at the cover art, you can go ahead and look it up. It's Rush Hemispheres. And let me see. So I just got this album recently, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but I think it's more one of those, they're more concept type of albums that they released in the 70s, so haven't had a chance to listen to it. I could probably show the inside of it. That's the inside of it. And I can show you the back of it because it just has a brain on there. So yeah, look up the album art online. I'm not going to show it here on the video. Next up is Sammy Hagar, Street Machine. So I'm not sure if this is one of his first solo albums when he was, away from Montrose or whatnot. I enjoy Sammy Hagar as a singer of Van Halen. To tell you the truth, I like both eras. I'm not. I don't. I think. I mean, obviously, the David Lee Roth is probably the more influential and better well known for era. But I mean, I think Sammy did a great job when he sang with Van Halen. So I do enjoy his singing. Have not had a chance to listen to this album yet. Don't know why I haven't. Just been busy, you know. But sometimes I get a whole bunch of albums, and sometimes I don't get a chance to listen to them all. So unfortunately, I haven't listened to this yet. So, but it looks like a good album. There's the back of it. All right, and next up is albums that, again, they're all from the same artist, but this is an artist that I've been listening to since I was basically a child. I actually have quite a few albums from this artist. And the first one I'm going to start off is the debut album, and that is Santana 1. And this is kind of similar to if you recently heard about Santana releasing Santana 4 a couple of years ago. The album cover is kind of similar, but the first one had a lion and had Santana written in kind of a 60s type of font, kind of psychedelic font. And yeah, I mean, this is, a lot of people rank this as their best album, the debut. Waiting, Evil Ways, Shades of Time, Jingo, Percussion, Treat, and then they ended with Soul Sacrifice. So basically from beginning to end, this is a great album, and definitely one of their best. Next up is, I'm going to try to keep this in order, Abraxas. And again, unfortunately, this is an album I'm not going to be able to show you the front of it, but I'm going to show you the back of it. And again, if you want to see the cover, you can look it up on Google. And I will show you the gatefold. That's the, let me put these down for a sec. These are that's the inside. That's just a picture of the band. And so yeah, this album again is it's a great album, almost from beginning to end. You got the cover of Black Magic Woman, Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac. It's a cover of that song. Oye Como Va, another cover from Tito Puente. So again, as I mentioned earlier, these type of bands like Santana were mixing salsa influences with rock and roll, which is actually a really good match. They gel really well, and you know, it's good for the people that like salsa, and it's great for the people that love rock and roll, which makes Santana really special. Se Acabó, another great song. Mother's Daughter, Samba Pa Ti is a great song. Hope You're Feeling Better. So yeah, great album by Santana. Next up is Santana 3. Yeah, I'm able to show that. And this is a gatefold, so I can show you the whole thing here. And then that's the inside of the cover. So great music here by Santana. Batuca, Tucson Overture, Guajira, Everything's Coming Our Way, Everybody's Everything. So yeah, this is a great album by Santana, Santana 3. And then another one of the albums that I think has become a little bit underrated, and I think this might be my dad's favorite Santana album, and that is Amigos. Very colorful, kind of. I would like to say it's kind of like an Aborigine type of theme here, maybe. There's the back there. So Amigos, which means friends in Spanish. Great opener. Dance Sister Dance. This is, I mean, I play that song all the time. And I also love the live version, which I'm going to get into in a minute. Take Me With You, Gitano. Tell me, Are You Tired? Europa's Earth's Cry Heaven Smile. That is an amazing instrumental song by Santana. Love the guitar work on that. Let It Shine. So yeah, it's a great Great album, and I think it's one of the underrated ones. I think it would probably be, in my book, it's probably closer in the top 5, but a lot of people have this in the top 10. So, a great album. Another Santana album that I used to listen to a lot when I was a kid, and I used to only listen to maybe the first or second track on this, or the third, up to the third track. But in the last couple of years, I've listened to this from beginning to end, and I absolutely love this album. I love the color of it. Blue's like my favorite color. It's got that metallic blue on there, and it's got the butterfly there. And let me see. It's not a gatefold, so. But yeah, I would love to get this like on colored vinyl if they ever re-release it, and maybe they put like maybe a metallic blue color in it. I would definitely be all over it. I love this album. Some of the songs here. Let me see if I can. Okay, it's like listings here. So Spring Manifestations is a very chill kind of, full of sound effects and things like that. Like it kind of sounds like you're in a rainforest, but it's a great way to start the album. Canto de las Flores, and then they lead up to Life's Anew, which is a great track. I think that's probably the song that I used to play the most from this album. But Give and Take is another great song here. One with the Sun, love that song. Aspirations is great. Mirage, that's another song that I used to listen to a lot when I would play this. Flor de Canela, Promise of a Fisherman, and Barboleto. Yeah, so yeah, this is from beginning to end another great album. I think it's become a little bit underrated over the years, but this is a great album. Love it. And moving on with Santana, I got Santana Moonflower. So this is the live album, the only live album that I own of Santana on vinyl. I found this at the Goodwill as well. And this is a great album with a lot of good, well, it's actually partly a live album and partly a studio album. Carnaval is probably a good song there. I think that might be live, I'm not sure. Gypsy Queen, Black Magic Woman, another live track. Bahia. And then I love the live version of Dance Sister Dance. That's another really good one. And a live version of Europa. That's another great one. And then the studio side, you got a cover of the Zombies, She's Not There, which is a great cover by Santana. If you guys never heard of the cover, I'd highly recommend it. It's a great song there. Moonflower is another good instrumental. And then Soul Sacrifice, I think that might be live. Transcendence and Muroko. So, yeah, a lot of great music here. Moonflower. And unfortunately, I bought this at a Goodwill, so there was a little bit of water damage there. Probably need to get another copy of this album that's less messed up. But I think the vinyl was in decent shape, so that's why I haven't really need to replace it yet. Another album that I found at a Goodwill, and this is an album that a lot of people tell me is really good, but it didn't have any hits. So it's kind of gone back, kind of been overshadowed by the other albums of Santana, and that is Caravanserai. I think that's how you say it. Caravanserai, something like that. I can't really make it out. So nice, cool little desert scene there. And I have to say that this is one of the albums that I have not listened to yet. I got it in a pile recently and have not got a chance to listen to it, but I've heard that this is a very different type of album, and it's kind of like you have to chill and you kind of listen to it and enjoy it. So I definitely want to give this a try because I heard a lot of good things about it, and I think this is one of the first albums that Neil Sean played on. Not sure, but it might be because I think I saw his name somewhere in here. So yeah, good album by Santana. So they say. Another album that I was kind of in the fence on this one because I'm not sure if this was one of the, if you can count it as part of the discography. Probably not. But Santana, Love, Devotion, Surrender. So I think this was more like an album that had to do with his newfound religion. And one of the songs that come to mind on this one is Santana's rendition, I think, of, John Coltrane's Naima. So anytime Santana goes jazz, I mean, he does pretty good renditions of them. So I think I bought the album just out of curiosity about that song. So glad I have that. Another album that I've been told is really good, but again, I had not had a chance to listen to, and I got it with Caravencia, and that's Welcome. Another Santana album. Don't know much about the songs here. Let's go look at the inside of the cover. Mostly white. Nothing on the back. So Santana, Welcome. Next up is Inner Secrets, and I've been told that this is a pretty good album, but it's kind of underrated. And I think sometimes the reason for that is because Santana was changing as a band from time to time. A lot of members left and came back and left. So and the singers are different too. So I think that's probably why Santana's music kind of went up and down in popularity, because just of the changes that he made throughout the years. But I haven't listened to this yet. Really would like to give this a try. There's the back of it. So yeah, Santana, Inner Secrets. And next up is another group. Actually, it's a pair of duos. So the first duo is Seals and Croft. Yeah, Seals and Crofts. So first heard about their music in the movie Dazed and Confused. I think I mentioned that movie a couple of times. I guess it has influenced me because a lot of the music from that movie were later on artists that I got curious about and started listening to their music. So I guess it was a bit influential. Summer Breeze is the title of this album. So I mainly bought the album because of that song, because I love the song Summer Breeze. Yeah, I probably should spend more time listening to the whole thing from beginning to end. Because when I saw this album and I saw the condition of it, I grabbed it because I really liked the song Summer Breeze. So I will probably give this a listen to. And I did end up buying the Seals and Crofts Greatest Hits. So here's the Greatest Hits. And I have heard some of these songs before. I know that Diamond Girl was kind of a big hit for them. And Summer Breeze, obviously. Yeah, Hummingbird, I think, is another song that I remember listening to and liking. So yeah, Seals and Crofts Greatest Hits. Next up is that other duo that I mentioned earlier. And it is Simon and Garfunkel. Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Pretty big album for them. I believe this is the last album they did together. So you got Bridge Over Troubled Water, The Boxer. There's a cover of Bye Bye Love, Keep Your Customer Satisfied, and a song for The Asking. So I'll have to be honest with you that I'm not too much into these kind of folky type of artists, kind of like James Taylor and Joni Mitchell and all that. I mean, I'm sure they write beautiful lyrics, but it's not really my thing. I picked this album up because I know that this is probably in the top 100 greatest albums of all time. I thought I'd give it the benefit of the doubt and listen to it. It's okay, I think, for those people that have, emotional ties to this type of music and this type of album, I can see how it would be very powerful for them, but they are them. So, I'm glad they enjoy this type of music and this type of album. Next up is Simon and Garfunkel, The Greatest Hits. So obviously it's going to have, Mrs. Robinson, The Boxer, Scarborough Fair, Homeward Bound, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Kathy's Song, Bookends, Cecilia. So it's got the big hits. And that'll be it for today. I believe that those are most of the albums in my S's. I think I do have a couple more S's, and those will be covered in the last video of the 70s. We're very close to the 80s now, and I look forward to that decade of music because that was the decade that I was alive in. And I got to remember, I could probably share more memories of those times versus the 70s and 60s, which are all more or less retrospective years because I wasn't around when the music first came out. Anyways, thank you for joining me today. I know it was a long video, but I greatly appreciate your time and enjoying the memories with me. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.